Welcome. You've just received your login information and are ready to start your education journey as an EdHead. The first page you will see is the login page. There are 3 fields to complete and it's super easy to get started. Just put your 5-digit family ID in the top line, then your student ID, and finally your password, which is always going to be the student's first name and all lowercase. If for any reason you can't log in or have misplaced your login information, first contact your tutor or tuition center manager. You can also email admin@ed-heads.co.uk and we will get it sent to you again. Here we are now inside the platform, and as you can see, I'm using a demo account, but in your case, your name will appear in the top corner. The first page that loads up is the weekly tasks. These exercises in English and Maths are set automatically by the system each week and renew whether or not you complete them. After you've done your initial assessment with us, we can see what level you're at with each subject, and your tutor or tuition center manager will adjust the level of topics in each subject individually to match your current level. As you continue on your journey with us, they will adjust and hopefully increase the level of each subject as necessary when you're ready to do so. So we aim to have that conversation to make sure that you are ready. But even if we go ahead and put you up and the next level is perhaps a bit too much too soon, not to worry, we can always adjust again and work at a pace that's comfortable for you. As you can see here, there are 6 weekly tasks, which is the minimum, but we normally start students off with 10 per week and can decrease or increase to a maximum of 20, again, depending on you and the pace that you want to work at. Nothing complicated here, just click on the topic you want to tackle and it will take you straight to the pre-exercise screen where you can choose what activity you want to accompany your exercise with. More on that later. Each week, EdHead sends out an email with a report of everything that happened in the previous week, how long you spent, what marks you got, and what else you worked on during the week. It gives a brief overview and keeps you up to date with the latest activity. But if you want to take a deep dive into your reports and see how you've been getting on and progressing over time, click up here on Reports. As you can see, we have a huge selection of subjects you can be working on, not just English and Maths. Now on the left is a drop-down menu where you can select the key stage. So if you're a GCSE student, for example, you might select Key Stage 4, where we have even more subjects for you to choose from, do some practice, or just explore if you're interested in them. The ring here shows the percentage of time spent on each subject at each level. And here on the right, we can see an average score for each subject and of course the time spent on each subject. We use a simple traffic light system to indicate whether a score in any area is above 60%, between 40 and 60%, or under 40%. This system continues through each subject. For a quick demonstration about how our tutors and of course you and your family can use this to help fast track your progress, we're going to dive into Key Stage 3 Maths. As you can see here, there are masses of topics to work on just in Key Stage 3 alone, and you can break down the topics by searching under Year or Topic. You can also order the topics based on the maximum score for each topic, the average score, which of course dictates the color of the traffic light, the last score, meaning the last time you attempted the topic, and of course the total time spent on the topic. And of course, by clicking on Retake, you can instantly go straight to that topic and retake that exercise if you so wish. The tutor will be looking at these to see where there are gaps and areas of difficulty. What they will then do is select a troubling topic and look at what's been happening. So we can select a topic by clicking on it. Here we can see how each attempt has done on a simple line graph. Each point relates to a line down here, and we can then click on that line to see what happened on that particular attempt, when it was done, how long it took, how many questions were answered or skipped, etc. Then we can look at each answer and ideally try to see if we can find a pattern. In this example, there is a clear problem with indices, as all the questions with indices are incorrect. So in this case, the tutor would work through the problem, explain how they would work, and do a couple of examples so that the understanding is solidified. Then it is likely they would ask the student to do an additional exercise on top of their weekly tasks, just to make sure that they've grasped the principle. Tutors will send notes or emails with any additional tasks, as well as some general feedback from this week's session. So you are always fully up to date with your progress, and we can then stay on top of any issues before they cause problems. Tutors will look at the reports before a tuition session to identify issues, so they'll be ready to provide support exactly where it's needed. Let's take a look at the practice exercise area and see a couple of examples. Before we do that, let's click on the Lessons tab, which will open up a new tab on my browser. I'll explain why in a moment. The practice exercise area contains every topic in every subject from Key Stage 1 to Key Stage 4 GCSE, as well as all of the 11 plus content and more. The simplest way to find an exercise is by going to the relevant key stage. In this case, I'm going to go to Key Stage 2, selecting a subject. I'm going to select Maths this time, and then go through the topics. You can narrow down your search by selecting either the year or the topic. Alternatively, you can search for a specific topic by typing in the search bar. When you type in your search, the only topics that remain will be those that match the search, and if you search within a particular key stage and subject, only topics within that key stage will appear. However, if you do the same search outside of any key stage or outside of any subject and just search for a particular keyword, all topics with that keyword will appear from every key stage at every level and from every subject as well, as you can see here. Okay, so I've chosen my topic and now I'm ready to start. But before I start, I have the option to add an activity to my exercise. One quick note, as you can see here, these boxes relate to the reports. So this is the average score that you will see in the reports for each of these topics, giving you an indication of which ones need more work. I'm going to choose add and subtract by 9 or 11. And before we get started with the exercise, as you can see, there are plenty of activities and games to choose from, and the activities that are interspersed between the questions. When you get your login, all of these games, as you see here, will be locked and grey, just like these ones here. But don't worry, all it takes is a few credits to unlock those games. You start off with 400 credits, and you will use 200 to unlock any new game. Now we've already got some games unlocked, so I'm just going to choose one that we've already got ready, and here we go. Now, if you're thinking, oh no, I've only got 400 credits, how am I going to unlock all of these games? Well, don't worry about that. You can get more credits, and that's where EdHead starts getting really fun and interesting. So I'm going to start my exercise and answer questions. Depending on which game you choose, the number of questions that you get to answer between rounds of the game will differ and will vary. With this game, I answer 2 questions. Now you may notice when I got a question correct, the system tells me that I get more time. Each game rewards correct answers in its own way, but you still get to play even if you get questions wrong. With more time, I can get a higher score in this round, and every round I play adds to my total score. So I'm going to get this question wrong just by putting in any random answer here. Check my answer. Now when I get a question wrong, I get a couple of options. The system tells me that I got it wrong, so I don't have to wait until the end, or tomorrow, or next week. Straight away I can retry and attempt to get it right. Before I do that though, I've had a chance to play the game, so here we go. And there we are. So now Now I go straight back into the exercise, and it takes me back to my last question and asks if I want to try again. Now I can retry by clicking on this green button here. I can skip to the next question, or if I'm really struggling and I don't know what the answer is, I can click on this and it will tell me the answer here. So here was my answer, obviously completely incorrect, and here is the correct answer. Now this may help me to understand where I went wrong, what I did wrong. But if I'm really struggling with a particular exercise and I need a little bit of extra help, I can always access the lessons area of the EdHeads program. I'd already opened the lessons tab prior to starting the exercise because you can't open the lessons from within an exercise. From here, as you can see, we have a compendium of English and maths exercises that cover everything from Key Stage 1 to Key Stage 4 GCSE. These are all pre-recorded video lessons and are proprietary to EdHeads. You won't be able to find them anywhere else. And of course, completely curriculum compliant. I can search for the lesson by going through the key stages and trying to find it that way, or I can go straight to the search bar and type in a keyword from the topic. So if it's adding and subtracting, maybe I can type subtract, and there we are, adding, subtracting. It's actually brought up a lesson very similar to what I'm doing. So I click on that, and there we are. Not only does the lesson that I'm looking for come up, but a selection of other similar lessons that might be useful to complete the foundational knowledge that I would need to have to do this exercise. But here we are. This is a perfect lesson for me to watch. I can click on that. Let's make it full screen, and let's skip ahead a little bit.
To get 33, and then taking 1 off, because 9 is 1 less than 10. To get 32 is the answer. Or if we take 9 from a number, that's like taking 10 away and adding 1 back on afterwards, because 9 is 1 less than the 10 taken away.
Now these lessons are standard whiteboard type of lessons, very straightforward, very universal, so that anyone at any age can understand them, watch through them, skip back and forwards, rewatching sections just in case they didn't understand a particular section of the lesson, and that way the student can get to a key understanding of the topic they're working on if they're on their own. Now this is for students when they are on their own in their practice at home or wherever they are, or perhaps if they're in a session with the tutor is engaged with another student or otherwise unavailable at that moment, and they think to themselves, I'd like to try and figure this out for myself, let's watch the lesson and see if I can understand it. And that will obviously work towards building their own self-confidence, because obviously working things out for yourself is a huge booster of confidence and motivation as well, which is something we are very keen to encourage. Now, of course, it will never replace a tutor, and it's always good to refer back to your tutor whenever watching a lesson if you just want to make sure that you've understood the problem. We have another tool, our brand new AI learning support coach, Coach Ed. If I click on Ask Coach Ed here, that will take me through to the Coach Ed page, where you can ask up to 6 questions a day on any English, maths and science, and we cover exam boards, AQA, EdXL, OCR Higher, OCR Foundation and IGCSE as well. First of all, make sure that you ask the question starting with the subject. For example, maths, how do I add or subtract by 9 or 11? Ask Coach Ed, hit the button, and after a few seconds of thinking, Coach Ed will give you a complete, concise method for dealing with any problem. Of course, you can cover any topic, any subject, English, maths and science up to GCSE. Always refer back to your tutor to make sure that you are doing things correctly. AI can sometimes get things wrong. So now I go back to my exercise, I continue and I complete the rest of the exercise, which I'm not going to do right now just to save time. So I'm going to finish the exercise here. Imagine that I had completed the exercise. At the end of the exercise, all of these squares would be marked either green for correct answers, red for incorrect, and the action taken at the end of each incorrect answer is shown here. So if I retry a question, eventually you'll see there will be an arrow which will say that you retried, or in this case I looked at the answer, so it says answers shown. When I complete that, I've got the option to pause and come back. So if you're in the middle of something else, or you've got to leave to get on with another task, or maybe it's dinner time or whatever it may be, you can pause the exercise and come back to it later. In this case, I'm just going to finish. And as you can see here, I've scored 1,650 points. Now I can choose, if I wish, to tell my buddies. Now I'll tell you a little bit more about buddies in a moment. Before I do that, as you can see the rest of it here, I've got some achievements here that I'm working towards. The more times I play the game, the closer I get to those achievements, the kind of things that you might see on another video games system or console. I've earned a few credits by getting a question right. And as you can see, I can either close this down or go back and retake the entire exercise. You might also notice there's a nice little character in the top corner here. This is my avatar, and those credits that I've earned here can be used in one of two ways. I can either use those credits to unlock more of the games on the system, or I can use them to customize my avatar. Now there's only a couple more things to consider before you get started. If you are doing an English comprehension exercise, you will need to click on an icon before starting the exercise. Now I'm not going to choose a game this time, just go straight into the exercise. Start quiz without a game, which of course you can do in any event. You don't have to play a game or do an activity. You can just simply do the work and do the practice as you so desire. That's absolutely fine. So as you can see here, there's an icon at the bottom. I click on that and it opens up another new tab, which is the text of the comprehension that I need to read. I read the text, and then I can simply go back and forth between this tab and the exercise tab itself, start the exercise, and away I go. Now in the EdHeads program, we have multiple types of questions. There's multiple choice, fill in the blanks, match the categories, match the statements, free text, and more. You'll always get a different set of questions for every exercise that you complete, as we have a huge pool of hundreds of thousands of questions which populate a different set every time you do an exercise. Now if a question does turn up more than once, it will always be in a different order. If you have difficulty reading, or dyslexia, or you struggle for any other reason, we can incorporate a reader into the browser for you. In this particular example, we've got a reader ready to go. You will need to load the reader for every tab that has text on it that needs to be read. In this particular case, if I want this piece of text read, I simply select the text, right click, read selection.
In Britain, dragonflies used to be known as horse stingers. People wrongly believed that the long thin body of a dragonfly,
and it will read the piece of text along with you, so you can get better at reading whilst the voice reads the piece of text. Same thing goes for the questions. So if you are struggling with reading the questions and seeing where the answers are, hit the play button.
Match the countries with the things people used to believe about dragonflies. Tahiti, Britain, Japan. Dragonflies sting horses.
So here, as you can see, it just makes it much easier to read and comprehend the questions as well, and therefore we can simply drag our answers into the right areas and so on. Finally, some more fun stuff. If you want to share your high scores with family or friends who are also EdHeads, check your achievements, or customize your avatar, you can do all of those things by clicking on the account icon in the top right corner. When you do so, a drop-down menu appears and you'll have all of these options. To add a buddy, it's very simple. You click on add a new buddy, you're given a code, you pass that code on to your buddy who will do the same for you by doing the same action. You input that code into this input area, click add buddy, and boom, there you are buddies. You can tell each other about the high scores that you've achieved, and there are a couple of collaborative games that you can play. However, there is no other communication available on the platform. On top of that, you can check your achievements, see how you're getting on with each of the games that you're working on, that you're playing as part of your experience, and of course, customize your avatar. Now, the avatar shop, some of the areas are requiring credits. Select the things you want, add it to the cart, and then use your credits, and away you go. Finally, we have leaderboards. The leaderboards here will give you an idea